Hello and welcome to the Formula One Father and Son podcast. I'm the father in the title, Graham Miller, and here's my son, Toby.
Hello.
And this week we're discussing I've got it up on the screen. Formula One AWS Gran Premio del Made in Italy del Emilia Romagna 2025.
Yeah, the Del Made in Italy is really silly for me.
Yeah.
Because it's Del, which was, I assume it's Italian for like of.
Yeah.
But then they have Made in Italy in English for some reason.
It's a brand, I expect.
Although, well, it's probably like the Italian tourism board thing.
Yeah. Everybody calls it either Emilia Romagna or just Imola because that's the nearest town to the circuit.
Yeah, and that's what... Actually, the circuit's not even called Imola, it's just nicknamed Imola.
Yeah, it's been renamed as the Enzo Edino Ferrari circuit.
Yeah. Autodromo Enzo Edino Ferrari.
Exactly that. Because it's very famous. It was the San Marino Grand Prix.
Yes, despite
really
not being
tragically in 1994, obviously.
Yes.
Then I think they shelved it for a bit in the
2007.
And then it came back in lockdown because they needed to have lots of races without too much travelling.
They also did Mugello, which was only for 1 year, but it was actually a really excellent race.
Yeah.
But that was three Italian Grand Prix.
Now, presumably because there's like the big Hamilton factor at Ferrari and because of Kimi Antonelli, we're back to 2 Italian Grand Prix.
Well, there were 2 Italian Grand Prix anyway, back in like 2020.
Yeah.
When, Antonelli was like 6 years old.
11? 12? Oh, God.
Wait, oh, God, hang on, what year is it? Oh, mate, 13, I think.
Yeah.
Man, I was joking.
He is really young.
Yes, but it might not get renewed. It's up for renewal.
Yeah.
And almost every driver has said it would be a massive shame to lose it because it's a driver's circuit. And they all actually like it a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, a bit of a spoiler alert, but coming into this weekend, everybody was saying, oh, well, it's not going to be a brilliant race. It's an old school circuit. It's very narrow. We've got the new, bigger, wider cars. It won't be much overtaking.
Yeah, dirty air and all that.
Yeah. But it actually really...
Yeah, it worked.
Yeah. So I'm just looking something up on Wikipedia as well.
Yes.
It was, and I need to dive a bit deeper into this as well, it was Red Bull Racing's 400th race start.
Yeah.
But Wikipedia actually has them down as 401 race entries.
I wonder which one they didn't enter.
Or they entered but didn't start.
Yes, that. Well, I can see their entire racing record. Red Bull Racing Grand Prix results. They had a double DNS in, the 2005 United States Grand Prix.
Oh, that one, yeah.
I wonder what happened there.
Yeah, also...
That probably is what it was. Yes.
And they said, it's really impressive that Red Bull Racing have had 400 race starts. Until you realise Fernando Alonso, on his own, has done 408.
Yeah. Because they started in 2005.
Yeah.
He started in 2001, although he did skip a few seasons.
Yeah.
That is quite ridiculous.
It's quite kind of mind-boggling.
But then, I mean, Haas have probably only done 200 because they started in like 2016. So,
yeah, but you say that, but Red Bull Racing have got
8 championships?
8 drivers, 7 constructors.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's 15 championships overall.
And Alonso got 2.
Yeah. Nearly 4.
Well, yeah, but as people have been pointing out, if you look at Alain Prost's record, he was actually something like 8 points away from being an 8-time champion.
Yeah.
Including that one season where he was half a point off Lauda. I think actually if you apply the modern point system without the whole pick the 2 best results stuff, if you apply that, he wins something like 5 or 6.
Yeah,
because he was so consistent.
We're back to the whole if my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a bicycle thing, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, you can pick and choose. I wonder if you probably pick like 10 races in F1 history that completely change the complexion of the sort of stats.
Yeah.
Because you could give Hamilton probably 9 championships just with 2 races.
Yeah.
You could make it so Vettel had like 2 and Alonso had 4.
Yep.
But that's not what happened.
Was it China 07 where he stuffed up the entry to the pit lane?
Yeah, and he had to retire.
Yeah.
So if you take that and you take Abu Dhabi 21...
You know what I'd actually take instead of Abu Dhabi 21?
Baku?
Yeah, Baku 21. If he had moved his thumb...
Just whisper in his ear, "Oi, Hamilton," off the magic button.
Yeah. If he just moved his thumb and flicked that off, he'd be an 8-time world champion.
Yeah. But
and there wouldn't be any controversy about, what did Massey do and were the rules followed here and what happened in Belgium. It would just be like, yeah.
Oh yeah, there's Belgium as well. But I don't think the points for that were enough to swing it.
No, but anyway.
Because Max finished ahead of Lewis in that, quotes, race.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've gone heroically off topic almost immediately.
Remarkably. Right, Emilia Romagna.
Yes.
You see, all the free practices, I'm not going to say that again.
All 3 free practices.
Thank you. Was just like the McLaren show, really, wasn't it?
Yeah. Actually, were they first and... They were first and second for every practice session.
Yeah. It was rather one-sided.
Were there any crashes in practice? I think Hadjar went off.
When did Tsunoda have his epic?
That was qualifying.
That was Q1
Q1?
or 2.
Yeah, he DNF'd Q1.
Yeah. Yeah, because Ocon, I think, only got some very low. I'm just looking at the free practice results and... Yeah, I think they were fairly...
Pretty normal. Again, I didn't really... I think I put them on, but I wasn't paying too much attention. Kind
of in the background. I can't see anybody with worryingly low numbers. I think maybe Ocon in FP3 had quite a low number of laps, but...
nobody subbed in.
No. Now, the one thing about this... Well, actually this season, is that Pirelli have been lent on. Because people are getting really fed up of one-stop races, because they tend to be, within about 5 laps everybody stops, people go for the undercut or the overcut, and there isn't very much, quotes, excitement.
Yeah.
So Pirelli have been trying to fix this. We need a tyre war, really, but...
Well, that would be very interesting, actually.
So what they do for this race is they've shifted everything 1 grade softer.
Yeah.
So last year's hards are the new mediums. No?
Yeah.
Last year's mediums become the new softs.
And then last year's softs...
No, we've got it.
Yeah, the new...
become the super softs.
So it used to be C3, C4, C5.
Yeah.
And this year it was C4, C5, C6. Which I don't think we'd ever seen before. The C6.
That was so soft that in the qualifying sessions, the drivers were actually reporting they could feel the tyres going off by the end of the lap.
Yeah. It is just the old Pirelli Rainbow, where it was like super hard, medium soft, super soft, hyper soft.
Yeah.
It never went away, really.
Oh, no,
they paint them different every race.
They just rebranded it for the viewers, really.
But I do kind of miss, like, the pink hyper softs. Because you got the sense that they were ridiculously soft. I mean, like, made of marshmallows.
Did you hear what, I think it was Ted Kravitz in the pits said? He said, Oh, it's like spreading on your bread. You got red, which is the jam, yellow, which is the butter, and white, which is the bread, and that's how they go in order of softness.
That's really... Okay.
Really tenuous.
That's a really specific example.
Yeah.
I was thinking, is jam supposed to be softer than butter?
Well, if you take the butter out the fridge... Yeah, it doesn't...
I don't know, you've made jam that was like trying to spread a brick on bread.
Yeah, and I think more like toast for the white stuff, but then that's not white, it's brown.
Or you could just remember what they are and look at the graphics.
I think that's easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a really odd situation. Yuki Tsunoda, I can't remember if it was the same corner, but had a crash that was terrifyingly reminiscent of Barrichello in '94.
Yeah. He flipped over completely.
Yeah, and what was really weird is watching it live.
Yeah.
They never catch it live, so like they kind of panned around and there was like the remains of Tsunoda's car sat there on the tarmac. And then they said, right, now we have a replay, and they gave the onboard replay, and all of a sudden it was like, Sky, tarmac, Sky, and we were just like, and the commentator was, did he flip?
He did, yeah, because from his onboard, it is quite kind of freaky, actually.
Yeah. And then they threw red flags out.
Mm-hmm.
And Ollie Behrman was on a lap that would have put him up into Q2.
It wasn't the same corner, by the way. Sorry, I checked.
Oh, thank you.
Barrichello crashed at Variante Bassa.
Yeah,
and
that's us coming into the start-finish straight, isn't it?
Yeah, and it says Tsunoda rolled it in turn 6, which is Variante Villeneuve.
Oh, yeah, gotcha.
So, but still, you do kind of end up thinking about that sort of thing.
Yeah. So Behrman came over the start-finish line as they threw out the red flags.
Yeah.
And they determined, and Haas still don't agree with this, that the red flags went before he finished the lap.
Yes.
And therefore his lap time to get him into Q3 was disallowed.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel a bit...
It's a bit of a messy situation, really.
Also, I mean, It's not like a red flag was thrown and he did the last 3 corners at full racing speed and put in a hot lap.
No.
It's not like there were double waved yellows and an accident and he went hooning past it while there were marshals on the track. He didn't do anything dangerous.
Not really, no. But the whole argument was about whether or not he could see the red flags, because there were red lights on. And the red flag signal came up after he crossed the line, I think.
Yeah.
But what I saw, or what I sort of thought of it, was that when he crossed the line, the session was red flagged, it wasn't on.
Yeah.
Which means that legally speaking, according to the rules, he couldn't have set a lap time because there was no racing happening.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like what was the delay on the flags or anything, and did he see it and did he lift? It was more just like...
They weren't racing.
And I think if they start taking liberties with that, it's a bit of a dangerous precedent.
They're going to start creeping, yeah.
It's going to creep from like, it was just the last corner and the car wasn't even there. Come on, FIA.
Yeah.
They have to be... With red flags, they have to be quite hard line about it, I think.
Oh, God. Is it the Indian driver who's reckoned to be the worst driver of all time?
What? Mahavir Raghunathan? Yes.
One of his feats was he tried to get the fastest lap on the cool-down lap.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. Well, like you say, it's not actually racing situation, so...
Yeah.
And then we got to Q2.
Well, okay, yeah, but when they restarted... Oh, was it? Yeah, Q2. And
again,
Behrman was in his car.
Yeah.
And he was like, do I go out? What's going to happen here?
Yeah.
And then, as everybody was wondering, Bortoleto just drove down the pit lane. Because Bortoleto was in 15th.
Yeah.
Which is quite... I thought that was kind of like a statement, really, wasn't it? Like, well, I'm legally in this session, so I'm going to drive.
And like you say, if the timing board comes up and says, BOR 15, that's the official timing for the event.
But also, they were asking what would have happened if Behrman had gone out behind him. Because I think if they'd done that, if Haas had sent him out pending an appeal, I think the stewards would have been forced to wave the black flag.
Yeah.
As if just to say, you're not in the session.
It might even have been something like an unsafe release or something.
Yeah, I don't actually know what the penalty would be if he was on track but not being timed.
Well, not meant to be there.
But they didn't do that. I think once Bortoleto got onto the track, they knew there was no hope.
No kind of going back.
But they did do a lot of, like... What's it called?
Appealing.
They appealed it quite heavily.
Yeah. And, I think, actually, two things happened in Q2.
Yes.
I think the track evolution was massive.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the times. Everybody was, especially in the kind of midfield, people were shaving off at least half a second, in some cases 3/4 or a whole second.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Antonelli only gained 2/10 actually. But Hamilton shaved off 6/10. Both Hamilton and Leclerc shaved off 6/10.
Yeah. And they've normally been guilty of not, making progress.
Well, in this case, they didn't make enough. And both of them said that the Ferrari was awful in qualifying trim.
Yep.
Maybe the soft tyres were the problem.
Yeah, because the other thing that happened was the Aston Martins went out on mediums.
Yeah.
Which we have to remember are last year's softs.
Yeah.
And they absolutely destroyed everybody because they both got into the top 10 in Q2 easily.
Yeah. Which is like, if it was one of them, you'd go, man, that was a good drive. But not
actually, I think, I'm looking down this, I think Alonso had Sainz had the fastest time.
Yeah, it was Sainz and then Alonso.
No, then Russell.
Then Russell, then Verstappen, then Alonso.
Yeah, and Piastri was like...
okay, fine. He was like 5th or 6th, I think.
But it was quite kind of painful to watch, because all weekend the commentators have been like, we're in Italy, we're 60 miles from Maranello.
Oh yeah, something like that.
Bologna is, 35 miles down the road. I think they said 60k, which is the hometown of Antonelli.
And then both of them were out in Q2. All three Italian homes.
Yeah, it was like they were all up there and doing quite well. And then literally after the flag on the final laps, the Williams and the Aston Martins all just put in far better laps. And you just saw them going, click, click, oh, Antonelli's out. Click, oh, Hamilton's out. Click, oh, Leclerc's out. And it's like...
Yeah, it's just like, oh, they've been absolutely wrecked.
And now all the Italians are leaving the arena.
Yeah. It was weird. I mean, again, kind of, nobody would have predicted Aston Martin to get into the top 10.
Well, they did bring upgrades with them.
Yeah, they did.
Now, we always talk about the kind of top 4 teams.
Yes.
And you can normally book out 7 or 8, depending how the second Red Bull seat is feeling.
In this occasion, it was 5, though, right?
So you're normally looking at 2 or 3 of the midfield, was there?
It was 5 spots.
But in this case, Sonoda Bauwold, both Ferraris and a Mercedes were out. So now there were 6 spots.
Oh yeah, Antonelli as well.
Yeah. So you had both Aston Martins, both Williams, a Racing Bull and an Alpine.
Yeah, Gasly kind of just snuck in there, under the radar. And Hadjar, actually. Nobody talked about how much better Hadjar did than Lawson, who was out in Q1.
Yeah, I mean, Hadjar actually.
He can string a lap together.
Also, he's kind of like what a rookie should be doing in this environment.
Yeah.
You know, he went off on the formation lap in Australia in the rain.
Yeah.
He's seen his teammate change from Tsunoda to Lawson.
Mm.
And, you know, he's a rookie, and I know there's like 5 or 6 of them, and there's a lot of pressure. But somehow he just seems to have gone, Sunday afternoon counts. Oh, what am I going to do? I'll get in and drive as fast as I can. Don't listen to the noise, don't have any aggravation.
Yeah.
And he's not like starting fights or like arguing with other drivers or being dangerous. He's just, I've got to learn how to drive this car and do my best job and ignore the noise.
Yeah, that he's been so under the radar is a good thing, I think.
Yeah, it's really what he needs. Just get feet under the table and get settled.
Yeah.
But he has been very impressive, you're right. And
yeah, that was especially a very kind of that was a very impressive qualifying, if nothing else.
Also, I think he held it together during the race as well.
I don't remember where he didn't really. Oh yeah. Spoilers, he was 9th in the race. Second highest Red Bull powered car.
Yeah. So the final qualifying ended up being Piastri and Verstappen on the front row, which everybody just went, yay, let's go.
Yeah, well, it was Piastri, Verstappen and Russell, and everybody went, that top 3 might be a bit dicey, actually.
Yeah, it was weird seeing Russell in 3rd, wasn't it?
Yeah. And then Norris in 4th was a bit of a head scratcher, maybe.
No, but you see, we said this. It's literally a quarter of a second from 1st to 4th.
Yeah.
You know, you overcook the tyres a bit, you get a rear end slide and opposite lock in one corner, take a bit too much curb.
There used to be that much gap from 1st to 2nd, sometimes more.
Yeah, and if you consider maybe he's not on Piastri pace, he's like, 2/10, maybe a quarter to beat Max.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I think Max and Oscar were setting like absolutely blistering laps.
Yeah, and Oscar's got much better qualifying this year than he did, to be fair.
Yeah, Norris has said he's not quite on it for qualifying, and that's where he needs to work.
Yeah.
And then Alonso qualified in 5th.
Yeah, just gone back just for fun.
Yeah.
To the 2020 British Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Hamilton put 3/10 on Bottas, and the pair of them, and then he put a second on Verstappen in 3rd.
Yeah.
Whereas here, the gap between 1st and 3rd was less than 2/10.
Well, okay, if somebody put a second on Oscar Piastri,
if someone was behind a second from Piastri,
they'd go down to 9th.
Yeah, but in 2020 it was 3rd.
Yeah.
I mean, he had actually 2 seconds on 10th. Hamilton did.
Yeah, there's 1.1 basically.
Man.
So yeah.
It has gotten so much tighter.
And again, that kind of explains, like, with track progression and the fact that Colapinto had an accident in Q2 and that their normal run plans were disrupted. That's how come we get things like both Ferraris and a Mercedes out.
Yeah.
When they're out by a couple of tenths.
Yeah. Very tight.
Yeah, the slowest time in Q2 that got through was, I think, Albon on a 15.52.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Charles Leclerc was on a 6.
Yeah.
So it's not even a tenth of a second.
And Hamilton was only a 10th behind him.
Yeah, and actually only a few thousandths ahead of Antonelli.
Yeah.
So,
Bortoletto's the outlier there, but he's in a Sauber.
Yeah, actually he's in the Sauber in Q... Oh, yeah, back to that argument.
Well, he did get Q2 because he did his lap time when there were green flags waving, not red ones. Yeah. Colapinto crashed as well.
Yeah.
And then he got a one-place penalty for going out into the pit lane too early.
Yeah.
Because they were restarting Q1 after Tsunoda's crash, and they hadn't given an official start time.
Yeah.
But they sent him out anyway. They'd given a provisional one, and you're not supposed to do that, apparently.
Yeah.
So he got a one-place penalty, and then he crashed.
So yeah, the really interesting, third row backwards was Alonso and Sainz, all Spanish third row.
Yeah.
Albon and Stroll, and then Hadjar and Gasly.
Which is weird, really.
It's kind of nice to see the midfield teams actually, starting in the points places.
Yeah.
Oh, another slight tangent.
Yes.
My clickbaity articles, and I cannot get to the bottom of this.
Yes.
Keep saying that in the world of World Rally, apparently Mohammed Ben Sulayem has got into an argument with Sebastian Loeb. Loeb?
Loeb. Yeah.
But I don't know why, and it's very clickbaity, adverts every 5 seconds type pages. Yeah, I've tried that a lot. I can hear you typing.
Yeah.
But also, Carlos Sainz Senior,
yeah,
is widely being touted to run for FIA president against Mohammed Ben Sulayem.
Yes, he is.
But apparently, in a very undemocratic way, it's very hard to challenge the sitting president.
Yeah, it is. And people have also said, Sainz is a F1 driver, Sainz Jr. So is that fair? And I think even it's got serious enough that Sainz Jr. has said there wouldn't be a conflict of interest.
No, and I think one of the reasons people criticise Ben Sulayem is that he was allegedly, and it's never been proved, turning up and trying to influence races.
Yeah.
Which is kind of... Maybe he's judging other people by that standard and thinking, but you can't really have the president of the FIA turning up and going, that's my son, and leaning on the stewards. Everybody would notice.
Well, yeah. But even if he didn't do that, people would still accuse that of happening.
And also, Sainz is a very clean driver, Carlos Jr.
Yeah.
It's not like he's hardly ever in the stewards' room or attracting penalties or anything.
If it was Mazepin and his dad became FIA president...
Which is not out of the question, actually, because they're big money, but yes.
You'd definitely suddenly be a bit like, Yeah. And then Mazepin would win the championship because, P1 to 18 would get disqualified.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think Sainz Senior would do better than Mohammed Ben Sulayem.
Also, did you know Sebastian Loeb got 9 consecutive world titles in rallying?
I think I did know that. I knew he was basically the Schumacher of rallying.
And then some, yeah.
Well, actually better, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that was qualifying, which was a bit of an eye-opener.
It took a long time as well, because they stopped Q1 twice. And then there was a lot of faffing about with the whole Behrman thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it really did. We started watching it on main event. I think our Now TV stick crashed and we went back to the F1 channel, which is good.
Yeah.
If our listeners don't know, if you watch Formula 1, it's usually on 2 channels on Sky. There's one called the main event and one called the F1 channel. And if you accidentally watch it on the main event, if qualifying goes on over 2 or 3, qualifying's about an hour and 40, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We could have accidentally ended up watching the FA Cup final or something by mistake.
Yeah. Because then you start watching golf or something.
Yeah. It's whatever.
Because it's usually the F1 is the biggest thing on.
Yeah, but
unless it's the practice or something.
Yeah.
And then but I always watch it on the F1 channel.
Yeah, I'm just having a look. Yeah, you're right. Colin Pinto got busted down by one.
Yeah, and that made it all look a bit weird at the starting grid because there's a bit on the qualifying results, only 4 people set a time in Q2.
Yeah.
But I think he just crashed before he got a time in.
Yeah, and Sonoda, I think, started from the pit lane.
Yeah, because he had to change every single piece of his car.
Now, here's a question.
Yeah.
I thought you weren't allowed to use the radio on formation laps.
Right, why? What happened?
Sonoda went round And it was quite a long and heartfelt message. He said, "Oh, thank you guys. I just want to say thank you to everybody in the engineering."
Oh, that was Colapinto, wasn't it?
Was it Colapinto?
It's Colapinto. What you're not allowed to do is tell your driver what to do on the formation lap.
Ah.
Because it was that one race. It wasn't the one race where everybody pitted, but it was... I think it was Hungary.
Yeah.
Wet race. And the Hasses came on the radio and said, "Can we pit for inters because it's too wet to start on slicks?" And they said, "Yeah, box." And they got a penalty for that because that was telling the drivers what to do.
Oh.
And at the time, everyone was like, well, if Grosjean and Magnussen had just said, "We're coming in to box for inters, get ready," that would have been okay.
Oh, but they said box. Oh, okay.
It was a weird, very, very specific thing. But you're allowed to talk and do what they did and just say thanks on the radio during the formation lap.
Okay.
But yeah, I see it again. It's one of those very fine lines.
Nuanced, yeah.
Yes.
Now, you see, I was thinking about this because we had, like, probably one of the best overtakes we've ever seen.
Yeah.
In the first corner. Probably the first 3 corners, actually.
I think it was literally into turn 1.
It was like, because in Emilia Romagna or the Ferrari track or Imola,
Yes.
turn 1 is a kink.
Yeah.
And then 2 and 3 go into a chicane.
Oh, yeah, the Tamburello.
Piastri got a really good getaway.
Yeah.
George Russell got a good getaway behind him and came up virtually alongside Max Verstappen.
Yeah, Russell got massively boxed in, actually.
Yeah.
I saw it, he just had nowhere to go. It was a bit sad, actually.
And then Verstappen went round the outside and braked later and then just hung on round the outside for 2 or 3 corners and came out ahead.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like... I mean, even the other drivers, especially on the playbacks, were just going, that was epic.
Yeah.
And it's kind of... It's the story of Max Verstappen, because you have a few races where people are like, oh, the guy can't drive. He just dive bombs his way in.
Yeah.
Late brakes, forces people wide.
Yeah.
And then he does something like that, and you think, actually, I think he asks more of the car than it's capable of delivering.
Almost.
Because I think he said, I was running third with Russell ahead of me. And then I went to the outside and I lifted off the brakes and then I suddenly thought, oh, the car might make this, and I just went for it.
Yeah. But
I think you think he's a bit kind of, what they call it, Max Crashtappen.
Yeah.
He just pulls off something like that where he's kind of like, that's probably the best car control we've seen all season.
I also think he's having more of the good races than bad lately.
Yeah.
But, because I think he's getting a bit more mature and calm.
Yeah.
But definitely back in the day, he was quite wild.
Yeah.
But that overtake was quite extraordinary.
And the other thing is that, and I think this applies, because the way the whole race unfolded is they started Hamilton on hards and Leclerc on softs, mediums. And I think a couple of the other drivers, I think Antonelli behind Hamilton was on hards as well. And that kind of played out with weird strategies of some people going long and some short and the tyres going off. But all those things don't work if you're not fast.
Yeah. And
the thing was, Verstappen pulled off that amazing overtake, but then he actually had, I think one of the commentators actually said, metronomic speed. Like every single lap was fast and precise and on it. And because he was able to do that, it made the strategy work.
Yeah.
Because last time out in Miami, 2 weeks ago,
yeah,
he got into the lead, and then within about 20 laps, both Piastri and Norris had the faster car and were able to hunt him down and overtake him. Only this time,
they couldn't quite.
Actually, this time something very weird happened. Don't know if you saw it.
Yeah.
A lot of people started on mediums.
Yes.
Everybody in the, all the graphics and everything was saying, oh yeah, mediums, pit window 19 to 20, 21 laps.
Yes.
And then by like low teens, 12, 13, 14, some people were starting to come into pit.
Yeah,
But the
so...
mediums did that weird thing where they went off a bit in the middle of the stint. And
Yeah.
people like Max Verstappen who hung in there, even if they weren't happy with it,
Came back to them.
they suddenly came back. So they obviously burned off some kind of bad layer on the rubber.
Yeah, they did talk about that on the broadcast. There's this kind of graining phase you got to push through.
Yeah.
It was Leclerc
massive...
who pitted first. He pitted on lap 10 off of the mediums. And then it was Russell on 11, Sainz on 11, Alonso, and then Piastri on 13. So they all reacted to Leclerc, and he actually undercut the ball massively.
And that was also a bit of a fail from McLaren's strategy guys, because then Piastri came out in a massive midfield battle, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he had to carve his way through like 10 cars. I think at one point, Leclerc was ahead of like Russell on pure like one pit stop each. He'd undercut Russell. He was like 5 or 6 cars ahead. And I remember thinking, that's a monstrous undercut in like one lap.
And also Hamilton had a brilliant strategy because he could go
super
longer.
deep. Yeah.
And I actually said at the time, because it's Imola, and again, you don't have massive runoff areas, you don't have access roads where cranes can get on. I said one advantage Hamilton has got is that he can go deep and wait for a safety car or a virtual safety car.
Yeah.
And Ocon, I have to hold my hand up here.
Yes.
We've got one of those stories. Because we fix a lot of cars in our household. We've got probably 5 or 6 outside on the drive at the moment. And we've got a long-standing arrangement with our local scrap man where we've got a certain bin where we put the scrap metal and he comes around and grabs it. But in the middle of the race, he came out and knocked on the door for a chat. He often does. And bizarrely, his wife reads mystery books and was like, oh yeah, we knocked up the road at Paul and he said you write books. So I was like, I've really got to stay and chat to these guys.
Yeah, got to get some sales in.
Yeah, also it's nice to meet, nice people.
Yeah.
And I came back out and Ocon was not there anymore. At the bottom of the timing sheet's greyed out.
Yeah.
And it was a virtual safety car.
Yeah. So Ocon, and again, you talk about like the tight runoff areas and everything.
Yeah.
But he literally just broke down.
Yeah.
Like, he driving along, his car made some horrible grinding noise. But there wasn't even any smoke or fire or burst tyres or like broken suspension. It just kind of stopped working.
Yeah, I've had cars like that.
But you hardly ever see that in F1 anymore because they're all so reliable. It's usually that they've run something over and broken the suspension.
Well, actually, Ocon had a really early pit stop and they never really dived into why.
I thought it might have been because sometimes Ocon has done like literally lap-long stints. Like do you remember that time he pitted basically into a bunch of reporters?
Oh, yeah.
That was because he was pitting on the last lap because he'd done an entire race on one tyre. That was him. So I thought he might be trying that. Like, effectively a no-stop, pit on lap 1, go to the back.
Yeah.
And then just stick out 60-odd laps on the hards. But I guess that might not have been what was happening.
Yeah. So yeah, he binned it off on lap 27, and by 29 we had Bortoleto, Lawson, Gasly, Sainz, Tsunoda, Russell, Behrman, Hulkenberg.
Yeah, I mean there was a massive block. The pit lane was full, really.
But you see, that was Hamilton's first pit stop.
Yes.
And by going on hards and by nursing them in it to an extent, he actually opened up that chance of waiting for a virtual safety car and getting a much cheaper one.
Yeah, and he went on to the mediums then when everyone else was on the hards.
Yeah, and Leclerc, Russell, Sainz, Gasly, Lawson and Bortoleto all had their second pit stops then.
And actually Piastri had his a lap later.
Yeah.
So it was very kind of... It was well thought out by Ferrari.
Yeah, and the strategy
somehow.
from McLaren wasn't...
Well, Mercedes' strategy arguably was even worse because Russell ended up in like 7th from 3rd.
again, they saw that cheap pit stop, and I don't know why they threw guys in who pitted.
Well, if they knew it was a 2-stop, if they had gone medium hard, maybe they wanted to get that second hard on straight away and just try and stick it out.
Yeah, I mean, Russell pitted on lap 11 and then again 17 laps later. It's kind of...
It did seem... Everybody seemed very reactionary, because everybody pitted when Leclerc pitted, as if the mediums were the worst thing in the world, on lap 10. They effectively got baited by him. And then they all pitted again under the VSC, because they kind of felt that they had to. Maybe they felt the gains were better than the loss of pitting.
Yeah. It was one of those really weird races, because even within teams, you had two guys on different strategies.
Yeah.
And with the way the pit stops, and we had a full safety car later.
For Antonelli.
Yeah. Antonelli again broke down, and I'm kind of thinking, I don't really know if I'm being unfair here or not, but I kind of feel Antonelli's inexperience was showing, because he kind of broke down and then kind of cruised along, and he actually went past one of the orange crash barriers and left it in quite a dangerous position. And I'm thinking, maybe not, obviously with like a Hamilton or an Alonso level of starts, but with somebody like Sainz or Gasly have just gone...
Or Ocon.
Or Ocon.
Because Ocon...
Yeah, orange stripe, just stick it there, take the steering wheel off, VSC, roll it back.
He might have also been somewhat vainly thinking he could roll it back to the pit lane. But, yeah, I mean, he's only had like 10 starts or something, so...
Oh, yeah.
I can't blame him that much.
No.
But yeah, I kind of do see what you mean.
Yeah, I don't really want to... It's just something I noticed that... And again, there was another big rash of pit stops. But they pitted Hamilton but not Leclerc, so then he actually had a 2-stop race.
Well, they did pit Leclerc. Lap 29.
Yeah.
It's for his second stop, because he started on the mediums, whereas Hamilton started on the hards.
And then we had... I think that we had like the final 10, 12 laps.
Oh yeah, this is the second time, the second safety car.
Were absolute carnage, because we had Verstappen, Norris, Hamilton, Hadjar, Alonso, Stroll, Colapinto and Boltoletta, who were a bit out of the points.
All pitted.
All on absolutely fresh rubber.
Yeah.
And then the guys around them on literally 17, 18 lap older tyres.
Yeah, there was one point where they showed up the graphic, and they were actually one after the other. 3 laps, 15 laps, 2 laps, 16 laps.
Yeah.
It was actually single digits and double digits interlaced with each other. It's like that's just going to be complete chaos.
And it was. And also, again, McLaren, I think they kind of dropped the ball a bit there, because they should have just said to Piastri, you're on different strategies, let him go.
Yeah.
I know they've said they won't do that, but I think if the two drivers have got such a massive tyre offset, the car in front, Max Verstappen, is on fresh rubber. There's no way Piastri is catching him.
Yeah.
Did you notice the bizarre thing that happened between Leclerc, Albon and Hamilton?
Well, kind of. I mean, I know they were racing.
Yeah.
Albon tried to get past Leclerc.
So,
or vice versa.
Right, they're in 4th, 5th, 6th. Leclerc, Albon, Hamilton. Yeah?
Yes. Yeah.
Albon goes to overtake on the outside of Leclerc.
Uh-huh.
Leclerc pushes him wide. Albon hits the gravel, and there's gravel and dust everywhere.
Yes.
Leclerc carries on, having gained the place. But then, because he's got mucky tyres and he's been off track, Hamilton slides through as well.
Yeah.
Now, Hamilton is on way better tyres than Leclerc.
Yes.
And Ferrari get their strategy right, and Leclerc just goes, yeah, whatever, I'm not fighting this, and pulls out the way. So now it goes Hamilton, Leclerc, Albon. Then they come on the radio
and
say to Leclerc, give the place back to Albon. you pushed them off the track, we can avoid a penalty, which, given there'd been a safety car about 5 laps later, would have been devastating for Leclerc.
Yeah.
So Leclerc yields to Albon. And all of a sudden, Albon's still in 5th. But somehow he's been overtaken by Hamilton and has now got Leclerc behind him.
But also, Hamilton doesn't have to give Albon his place back that he took from him because Leclerc pushed him off.
Yeah. So somehow Ferrari swapped their 2 drivers around the Williams.
Yeah.
All completely within the rules.
Yeah.
I was just trying to kind of figure that one out, and I was like, well, there were no penalties, and Hamilton got 4th, so I think that's okay.
It was a bit weird.
Yes.
Again, just chaos, really, but kind of the fact that the Ferraris were up there fighting with the Williams was a good thing for them.
Yeah, I mean, 4th and 6th is a massive result, considering the rubbish season they've had so far.
Yeah.
It shows that even if the car's not really there, the strategy is.
Well, actually, both of them said the car felt much better in the race than it did in qualifying.
Right, I've seen the technical details on what's wrong with the Ferrari.
Yes. Have Ferrari seen it yet?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Where have the Ferraris been strongest this year?
China.
In a sprint.
Miami.
In a sprint.
Imola.
Yeah, not so, yeah.
Well, no, not really, yeah. But, well, Hamilton's been strong in the sprints anyway.
Yeah, because they got disqualified from China because of being underweight on Leclerc and having a plank on Hamilton's.
Yeah.
The problem with the aero is there's a boundary layer, they call it, between the floor and the air cushion under the floor, and with ground effect that is massively important.
Yes.
To make the Ferrari switch on and work perfectly in the window, they need to run it lower than they can according to the rules.
Yes.
So, obviously, in a sprint, they've got a much lower fuel load. So they can obviously drop it a tiny amount more because they haven't got the weight of the fuel to contend with.
Yeah.
And then it suddenly actually starts to work.
Yes.
But at full race distance, they're having to run it higher up. Or risk a disqualification, one or the other.
Yeah.
And I suppose what happened in Imola is that they had a very late safety car.
Yeah.
So all the losses they'd incurred throughout the race were neutralised by about 12 or 13 laps to go when it was on light fuel load anyway. It's kind of like a sprint.
Yeah. That is weird.
Yeah.
But, yeah, what I saw is that Hamilton said that he felt he understood the car the most that he has done since China.
Yeah, he did seem
Imola.
really happy about it all.
Leclerc seemed unhappy, I think, because of the safety cars. Because he got screwed over by them a bit.
Yeah, and Alonso did massively. They were quite...
Yeah, Alonso qualified up in the points and then ended up...
11th.
Yeah.
Because I think his pit stops were just out of...
They were just unlucky almost. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just looking through now. Aston Martin. Yeah, he pitted on lap 12, and then there was a safety car, a VSC. Everybody was pitting on 29. Then he pitted again on 46. He wasn't that badly.
I don't know. I don't know what his complaints were, really.
Yeah, just being Alonso.
Well, he came on the radio and said he's the unluckiest driver in the world. Which is like... Yeah.
Oh, there's a page on Facebook called Racing Statistics.
Yes.
And every race they do a kind of a grid.
Yeah.
With little speech bubbles and little jokes about them all.
Oh, yeah.
And guess what they put up with Colapinto, whose car actually wasn't on the grid but buried in the side?
What?
A little speech bubble just said, Flavio, this is what you meant by Crashgate, wasn't it?
Yeah. To be fair, if that had been Q3
Yeah.
in the last minute and Gasly was on pole, you would have actually been scratching your head a bit and going,
Flavio Briatore is not team principal of Alpine.
Is he not?
No, he's an executive consultant who is not officially on the staff. And in order to be team principal, you have to have a license from the FIA to be a suitable person. So something like the sporting director is acting team principal.
Right, okay.
It's something. But yeah, he's not got a license, so he's taken on all of Oliver Oakes' responsibilities.
Yeah, but he's not technically
No.
the team principal.
Yeah.
Interesting. But he is basically the team principal, in effect.
Yeah.
De facto.
Is what it says on Wikipedia, yeah. It is quite weird. What was Russell complaining about on the first lap, by the way? Because I know you said he got boxed in, but he just said in the first corner, what is Piastri doing? And I just thought, he's kind of racing because he started in front of you and he's still in front of you, so he can pick his line.
Yeah, I think they all kind of try it on a bit, don't they?
Yeah.
They're always just a bit like, what was this guy doing? And if the team kind of engineers agree that something dodgy happened, they say, we're on it.
Yeah.
But if it's just racing, they always kind of just say, head down, let's get focused. Which is to say, don't worry about it.
Actually, I'm looking at the results here. We had the top three, as they put it, in reverse order of the championship. Verstappen, Norris, Piastri.
Yeah, Norris... Yeah, he jumped Piastri because of his tyres, didn't he?
Yeah.
Oh man, Hamilton was only 2 seconds off Piastri.
Yeah, he was close to catching him.
Hamilton, on that last stint, was absolutely flying.
Oh, yeah.
He put in the second fastest lap of the day on lap 61.
Yeah. And actually, when he knew as well, he knew how the car was feeling, because when they were tidying up Antonelli's car, he was actually on the radio saying, come on guys, get the safety car in, let's go.
Yeah, he was amped up. He wanted to go racing.
And then, Albon in 5th, which is an epic result.
Yeah.
For Williams. Leclerc in 6th. Russell somehow converted a 3rd to a 7th, again, strategy. Sainz in 8th, so it's a double points finish and 14 points for Williams, which is more than they've had in most seasons, if you're being blunt.
Yeah, already they've scored more points this year than they did in 2022 or 2023 and 2024.
Yeah, and then as we said, Hadjar in 9th. And actually, I think Tsunoda's probably hanging on to his Red Bull seat, because he did a massive crash in qualifying and then pit lane to 10th.
Yeah, it was pretty decent from Tsunoda.
And actually, yeah, I mean, you can't complain about that.
Yeah. I mean, Max literally won the race, but you know.
Yeah, but I mean, compared to, like, you know, what Perez and Lawson have been doing.
Yeah, he scored an point.
Yeah, apparently Lawson is one of the few, I think it's like 4 drivers on the grid who've always been outperformed by their teammate.
Who else? I think Doohan was as well, wasn't he?
Oh, possibly Doohan, yeah. Obviously Tsunoda, because he's up against Max.
Bortoletto hasn't.
No.
He's beaten Hulkenberg once.
Antonelli has.
Yeah, but he's still, despite that, he's been putting in 4ths and 6ths like it's his job, which it is, to be fair.
That's more that Russell is being epic.
Yes, but they're both very consistent. It's just that Russell's level is 2 or 3 places higher than Antonelli's.
Yeah.
Which is fair enough.
And again, you've got to look at Hadjar has actually been outperforming Lawson at every
and
opportunity.
Did he outperform Tsunoda when they were briefly teammates for about 2 seconds?
He didn't at Australia because he went off on the formation lap. I can't remember what he did at the next race.
11th to Tsunoda's 16th, I think. So I'd say yes.
Wow.
So Hadjar again is being pretty good.
Are you ready? for crazy, not conspiracy theories.
Yeah, sure.
Crazy driver market theories.
Yes.
Although actually, I say crazy, I wouldn't actually be surprised if this came off.
Mm-hmm.
We've said this before, Max takes a year out.
Yeah.
Oh, have we covered Franz Hermann yet, or not?
No, we haven't. Was that
Right.
between the two races?
Yeah, so Max
Yes.
goes to the Nordschleife, the Nürburgring,
Yeah.
the full 14-mile circuit.
Yeah.
And because he's Max, he gets to try out in a GT3, which is World Endurance, or as everybody knows it, Le Mans Series.
Well, GT3 is one of the classes that races at Le Mans.
Yeah.
It's a formula. It's an FIA level of sports car, but they do a load of other stuff as well.
And he registers as Franz Hermann on the timesheets and everything.
Yeah.
And nothing official has come back about the lap times. But people who were there were saying he was 3 or 4 seconds under the lap record
Yeah.
on his first attempt. With other cars on the track, with fuel in the car.
Yeah.
And it was actually, I saw a transcript of an interview about it. And they said, what was with the name? He said, I wanted the most German sounding name possible.
Yeah, but what's funny about that
Yeah.
is that he still raced with a Dutch flag,
Yeah.
and his car was covered in Verstappen.com liveries.
Now, he's explained this.
Yes.
He said if he put out on the timesheets M. Verstappen, there would have been people outside the gates from 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And he would not have had a moment's peace. And as he's put it, I could turn up and I had from 8, 9 o'clock up to about 10 in the morning. People knew I was there, they knew who I was, but I wasn't besieged by people and press and photographers.
Yeah, so the other drivers who were there were like, oh, nice.
Yeah, and he was like, I can actually do what I enjoy. I was getting in a new car, I was meeting a new team, I was learning how to do it. And that's really, he just loves racing, as we said before.
Yeah.
And he really wanted to do it without, I mean, he's aware enough, self-aware enough to know that the circus follows him.
Yeah.
So apparently he's looking for a license anyway, certainly for the Nürburgring, maybe for the whole season.
Well, I think the Nürburgring needs a special license unto itself.
Yeah.
Which, given that he apparently, and unofficially, because they might not have been timing it officially, he beat the lap record. I think they should give it to him.
I think he'll be alright. Anyway, so Max takes next year out.
Yeah.
Partly for family time. Partly to see who's got the best package in the 2026 regs.
Yeah.
Obviously, being Max, he runs his own sim racing team.
Yeah.
So he can do that from home.
And he does sim racing as well, just for
Yeah,
fun.
he'll still keep up sim racing. He'll probably pop over and maybe do a stint at Le Mans. Maybe go and do the Indy 500, do kind of Max type things.
I think he should hunt down the Triple Crown.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Because it's been a while since anyone's got it.
Yeah, Indy 500 seems to be the one to crack, doesn't it?
Yes. Speaking of the Indy 500.
Same weekend as Monaco next weekend?
It is, but they've done the qualifying.
Yeah.
Because they do the qualifying a week in advance, because it's its own event.
Yeah.
Do you know who was on pole?
No?
It was Robert Schwartzman,
Yeah.
who was an F2 driver and a Ferrari development driver, academy driver.
Ah.
But he's a rookie. I think it's the first time since 1984 there's been a rookie on pole at Indy.
Oh.
So it's actually kind of a monumental shock win. Not win, but like pole.
Yeah. Apparently there's a race at Charlotte as well, which is a big race.
Is that a NASCAR race, maybe?
I think so, yeah.
It would be. If
I'll
it's
just have a look.
Charlotte and it's not IndyCar.
Oh yeah, Charlotte NASCAR.
Is it a whole day of racing then next?
Yeah.
Cool.
Anyway, back to my wild theories.
Yes.
That then leaves a gaping vacancy at Red Bull Racing.
Yeah, if he takes a year out, yes.
Let's be honest. I can't see Sonoda, Hadjar or Lawson actually jumping in that Red Bull
Well,
And
Tsunoda's already in there.
yeah, but I can't see him kind of going up to main driver and being anywhere even close to what Max was doing for Red Bull.
No.
So what they really need
Yes.
is a very fast,
Yeah.
very consistent driver who's not in contract yet for 2026 and is possibly in danger of being sidelined by his team.
Who?
Russell.
Is Russell not in contract next year?
Nope.
Oh, man. Oh, man. How would he do at Red Bull, though?
Probably quite well, to be blunt.
Also, that would look so weird.
Yeah.
Like, we've got used to seeing Ferrari and Hamilton in Ferrari gear, but Russell in Red Bull gear, I think, would just look wrong.
But then you see, I don't think Antonelli. Well, I don't know how fast Antonelli will develop.
Yeah.
But then Mercedes already have Bottas in their stable.
Yeah.
If Bottas doesn't want to go back to the high pressure world of being a Mercedes driver, which I can kind of see, also considering they may have the best package next year.
Yeah. That seems to be how everybody's leaning.
Then also we could see Perez back, not in a Cadillac, but in a Mercedes.
Russell and Perez together, well, no, Russell in a Red Bull and Perez in a Mercedes would be so funny.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, there's no kind of, not even sources have said, or I've seen Toto Wolff and Christian Horner and George Russell in discussions or anything like that.
That's completely unbased speculation.
I would say it's wild speculation, but
it is. But it's sort of, there's a logic to it.
None of those parts on their own actually are kind of... There's good reasons behind it all, isn't there?
Yeah, there's logic. There's no evidence,
Yeah.
but there's logic. It's not like saying, oh, I think Hakkinen going to come out of retirement for the next Red Bull seat.
Yeah. Oh, there's a rumour going round, and obviously it's not played out,
Yeah.
that Christian Horner was going to have a performance review after Imola.
Mm.
And I don't know if you ever worked in big business and big corporations, but
Well, no.
Performance review is kind of...
It's code for you're gone.
well, not maybe you're gone, but come in and fight for your job.
Yeah, why shouldn't we fire you?
Yeah. But, I don't know, I mean, I suppose you got the win with Verstappen, he got both cars up into the points.
Yeah.
You know, the performance was really there. I think the McLaren people have been saying, like Norris and Piastri, have been saying that when they're fast corners, Red Bull seem to have the slight edge, and when there are slower medium corners, it's more McLaren.
What was the other race that Red Bull won this year?
Japan.
That is quite a fast circuit.
Yeah.
But then, so's Bahrain and Saudi.
Yeah, but are they a mixture of circuits?
It's hard to tell, really.
Well, I mean, is there a mixture of corners at those circuits?
But there's a hairpin at Japan.
Yeah.
It's kind of...
I mean, I think they're so close together.
We'll see Monaco and Monza, really. That's what I think of when I hear fast circuit
Yeah.
and slow circuit.
Yeah, we've got Monaco next weekend, so we'll see that.
Yeah, there should be a laugh.
I wish I could remember the guy's name. There's a McLaren engineer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just hopping all over the place now, a bit like an excitable squirrel. Who wrote a paper on phase change materials. Have you heard this?
Slightly.
He wrote a thesis in 2017.
Uh-huh.
Buchan, I think his name was.
Right.
Yeah, Buchan. He's a very, very senior McLaren engineer.
Yeah.
And in 2017, he did obviously a PhD in motorsport engineering.
Damn. That's the sort of thing I should have done, really.
Yeah.
I suppose I could do, actually.
And he did... His thesis was about phase change materials.
Yeah.
He didn't specifically mention brake ducts. I think he was actually talking about wrapping cooling around the batteries and the electric motors in order to manage temperature with the engine and the exhaust and everything in the packaging. And the idea would be, obviously not ice, but to use the example of water.
Yeah.
You would have like something that's frozen around it, and when there was too much heat, it would absorb a lot of energy to turn it back to a liquid. And then when it was cooler, it would refreeze. But obviously with like, not just metals, but probably really strange alloys with odd properties.
Yeah, yeah.
But given that this guy is working in McLaren and has been for years, they're thinking if he took this concept and this technology and applied it to the brake ducts, so somewhere inside the brakes there's like little pockets of these materials. I'm going to probably defer to you, but I think from a physics point of view, if you turn a material from a solid to a liquid, it takes a lot more energy than it would just dropping a solid by 1 degree, wouldn't it?
Yeah, completely. Well, that would be why it's a phase change material. It's something where you can do that more easily, right?
Yeah, but also to change the state, like let's say, I don't know, let's say it changes state going from 210 to 209 centigrade for the sake of argument.
Yeah, but the phase change kind of is a lot more energetic, I think you're right.
It would take a lot more energy to do that than it would to go from 211 to 210.
Yeah.
So the theory now is that they mastered that and they put it in their brake duct, so that gives it that extra bit to kind of suck heat out and to keep it stable, which then of course leads on to not just braking efficiency but also tyre efficiency.
Yeah.
It keeps the whole wheel hub and the whole rim cooler. Well, not just cooler, but in the operating window much more reliably.
Yeah.
So that is the current theory. Also, whenever teams amend cars, they have to put technical documents into the FIA.
Yes.
And McLaren have put a vast number of brake duct changes in. There was even one race last year, I think it might have been Hungary, where there's, again, some super technical thing about around, I think, the rear brakes, they've got holes. And in some of the practice sessions, they're allowed to put sensors in there to measure the temperature.
Yeah.
And then they're meant to cover them up with rubber bungs. And they went out in one session with the bungs having been, open quotes, forgotten to be inserted, close quotes.
Right.
But now people are looking back at that and looking back at this phase change and looking back at all the attention on their brakes and going, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
You know, maybe this is all connected.
Yeah. But again, it's the classic, they're pushing the boundaries.
Yeah. Well, that's what
also,
F1 is for.
Yeah, and also, if they can make this public and patent it, they could sell it to road cars, like their McLaren road cars. Could have, super brake cooling.
I mean, that is always the kind of aim of Formula One, isn't it? I'm sure battery and hybrid technology has moved on since they started doing it.
Well, actually, I was just looking up the old, McLaren P1 and stuff.
Yeah.
And that was 2015, wasn't it?
What?
Because it was on Top Gear, it was a big Top Gear thing. October 2013 to 2015. That's almost exactly when the reg change was from naturally aspirated V8s to turbo hybrid V6s.
Ah. So yeah, the F1 tech does come down.
Well, flappy paddles is another one.
Yeah.
And lots of, the hybrid technology. So maybe this will as well.
But yeah, I just thought it was really interesting that they've actually found almost like a kind of smoking gun, as it were, as to what on earth is going on inside that.
Maybe,
McLaren, and why its tyre management is so good.
Yeah, maybe. But you don't think the FIA will penalise them for it?
I don't think they will this time, because all the things the FIA tend to ban, I think, actually, we've reached a point where the cars are almost at the upper limit of how fast they can go and still maintain safety.
Yeah.
With the cars the way they are, with the tracks and the runoff areas and things like that at the state they're in. You know, I think anything like aero or adaptable aero or, you know, I mean, in theory, you could have a GPS in the car that adjusted the brake balance left to right and forward to back for every single corner. So, you know, as it went in, it could basically adjust the braking and throw it around the corner, but then the cornering speeds would be so high that any accident would be incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
But I think this isn't massively increasing the speed or the danger, so my theory is they'll let it... I think they'll let it go because it's not dangerous.
But it's not disobeying the regs or anything.
No, it's not making the cars faster and grippier. It's just extending the operating...
window.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think probably you're right.
Anyway, we've got Monaco this weekend, haven't we?
Yeah.
Hopefully they've changed the rules now. It's a mandatory 2 pit stop race, the only one on the calendar.
Yeah, which will make it interesting.
We'll hope that's what they're hoping.
Well, hopefully. Could still be quite boring.
Yeah. Hopefully
then
it will
it's Spain after that.
Yeah, another triple header all around Europe.
And then they take 2 weeks to go to Canada. And then blah, blah, blah.
Okay then, well, I think we're probably up to time, aren't we?
Yeah. Pretty much.
Okay, so, well, thank you for listening.
Yeah.
I'm Graham Miller, also known as Graham H. Miller, writer of mystery crime novels. Toby is official Tibby YouTube channel.
Yep.
Yeah, we will talk to you next week. Yeah, it's a triple header, so we've really got to be on it with these, haven't we?
Yeah.
Okay then. Yeah, thank you and goodbye.
Yeah, bye.